Hello and welcome to Take Heart Journey. Today was such a powerful art journal experience for me. It was really, really cool because what I decided to do this week is to write a letter to myself, and specifically my past self, the self who was just starting Take Heart. This was so cool for me to sit and really reflect on where I've been and how far I've come since I first started making these videos. I've had so much change internally and externally, even though I'm living in the same place, I have the same life that I did before, but where I am feels so much healthier and so much better. So let me just share a little bit with you what I thought about this week as I created my page, and share with you how I hope that you can do the same exercise and inspire yourself a little bit. So, as you know, my metaphor at the beginning of Take Heart and throughout it has been a seed that is planted and is growing. And the reason that was my metaphor is because that was really, truly what I felt like. As I was creating those first 5 Take Heart videos that, no one had ever seen before, I was making those buried. I was underground, and the amount of audacity that it took for me to even dream about a little shoot coming up out of the ground and maybe seeing the sunshine was incredible. I couldn't really picture it, but I had to believe it. And everything felt scary to me. I mean, I was making this a year after lockdown first happened. And so, the world was uneasy, and I had all of this angst inside of me at the way that I felt so buried. And now, I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I'm buried. I have moments like everyone that are really difficult, and I am a person that all my feelings are very big. So big feelings of sadness, big feelings of happiness, big feelings of joy and gratefulness, big feelings of regret, or, whatever it may be. I'm kind of all in with that. But it's a lot more moment by moment now instead of all encompassing. And I really got to think about that and realize that as I made this journal page. So internally, so much has changed for me. Spiritually, so much has changed for me. If you remember, I turned to art because I needed a new way to connect with God. I joke that, what I used to do is sit with a devotional and write in cursive and read my Bible calmly with a cup of coffee. And during lockdown, that was just not working for me. I had way too much anger and sadness going on and confusion, honestly. And so art became this really safe way for me to connect with God, because there was no way for me to do it right or do it wrong. It's just God is with me in that creation process. It gave me this safe place to be with God, where I didn't need to answer theological questions. I didn't need to write a thesis on the state of the world. I could just create art in an art journal that at the end I would close and put away and no one would see. And so art was the new way for me to connect with God. And as my things like that have continued to shift for me, that old ways that used to work don't work anymore. Old things I used to connect with, I don't connect with anymore. And that can be really, really scary. And one of the amazing things about sitting down this week, about writing a letter to myself, when I started Take Heart, is realizing God is still here. He's still with me. He's the one who told me that I was a seed, that I was going to pop up and be above ground and bear fruit and continue to grow. And he's the one who's still with me as I'm making art, even in the scariest questions, the scariest moments of doubt, letting go of the scariest things that I thought that I was going to hold on to forever. It was such a beautiful reminder to me to look back over that path and say, God is still here. And I think a lot of it is that I used to have almost this frenzy of I needed moment to moment to have this big revelation from God about the purpose of my life, and everything I did kind of needed to be like this huge action, this huge life-changing thing that I would do for God. But instead, my affirmation starting from January has been, I am on the right path. And so instead of these like huge moments of change or even obedience, I have just kept walking step by step, and that's not too slow for God. In fact, I think that's exactly the way he moves, is he was alongside of me every step of the way. And so part of that letter to myself was telling myself, like, God is still here. You're okay. It's going to be scary, some of the things that are going to change, but God is still with you. And he was right. You are a seed. Like, thank you, God, for giving me that hope to get me through to the other side. And so that was a lot of internal and spiritual changes. And I just want to finally touch on external changes, which for me has been friendships. I have the best friendships now that I didn't have before, and so many of them have come from Take Heart. I started this, and there are so many of you that I didn't know, and now I am so close with all of you. We can share with each other. We've walked through our lives together, talking about our highs and our lows, and sharing, what we're doing creatively in our lives together for such a long time now. And that's a really big deal for me. That's a big deal for me to tell Farrell, who's starting Take Heart, to say, you have beautiful friendships and community that are on the other side of this. And so this was such a joy-filled process for me to write to myself. And now I just want to talk a little bit about how you can also use this prompt in your art journal this week. So I want you to think back to who you were when you started Take Heart. And just a few questions to kick it off would be, what was the hardest part of starting Take Heart for you? Was it investing in the time that it took? Was it getting over the idea that you could make art? Was it financial? Was it buying the supplies or buying the class? Was it bravery because you were going to be in a spiritual community and that was a big deal for you? I just want you to think back, what were the things that were the biggest blocks for you before you started, and where are you with that now? What would you tell yourself about starting Take Heart, about starting an art journal? And I hope that it is really inspiring for you. It doesn't need to be huge epiphanies like I had this week, but even if it's just you didn't used to make art and now you use that creativity to make art for your walls or to make art for your classes, whatever it may be, or I don't know, whatever it may be, I can't wait to hear, because I know that for me, week to week, I am so inspired by all of you. Every text of a picture of an art journal that you've made or a canvas you've painted, every letter that I've gotten, I save. Every email, every Zoom call, every single moment of connection. I've been so inspired by you, by the art that you make, by the things that make you you, that you've brought to Take Heart. It wouldn't be the same without you. And so I guess this is a celebration this week. As we look back, we can celebrate how far we've come. And for me, the conclusion is I am on the right path. And that brings me joy, but also just such a sense of peace and safety. All right, so now let me tell you the supplies you're going to need today. You need black paint, you need your art journal, you need something to write with that is white. I used a white Sharpie this week. You need to print out a picture of yourself, and I only have a black and white printer, and so that's just what I did. And maybe some little collage scraps that are black, white, gray, gold, because that's our color palette this week. Really want to keep it simple. I actually ended up taking this journal page way too far, but I'm just going to stop the tutorial this week in the place where I really liked how it looked. So it comes together really fast. It's really just a matter of investing that time in writing that letter to your past self, and it turns out looking so cool. All right, I can't wait to hear your all your thoughts, all of the pride that I hope you have in yourself after you think back to the very beginning, and I can't wait to see what you make. Let's go. The very first step this week was to paint my pages completely black with black gesso, and then I used my white Posca pen to write Dear Farrell and switched over to a gel pen for the rest of this letter to my past self. Now, occasionally the pen would stop working, so you'll see me reach over to the right and I'm scribbling on a little piece of paper over there to get the ink going again. And the cool thing is I use that page with all those doodles and scribbles as part of my collage paper later in the project. Now, the experience of writing this letter was almost unreal. You can see how crazy the light was. It was a sunny day and it was really windy, and so this was all the shadows from the blowing wind blowing around the trees and everything outside. And as I sat here with these beautiful shadows and sunlight on the place where I was working, I was realizing at the same time that I had come so far. It was like all the puzzle pieces were coming together and I could kind of see the bigger picture for the first time. And I couldn't believe how far I had come, how much I had to tell my past self. And it was really realizing that that promise that I was a buried seed was true, and that I was above ground, and that I did have so much to look forward to. And so this was a really special experience for me, sitting and writing this letter, and it turned out to be even more than I expected it to be. Now, for this project, I printed out several things. I printed out my words, which are "You are on the right path." I printed out this little graphic that I had made for something on Ko-fi. It was just a recent picture I had of myself, so I printed that out black and white. And then I also printed out a picture of a bird, because for some reason I just really wanted to put a bird on my head. And you'll see these little scraps of paper are where I used the white gel pen to make some marks and some dots, and I think it works great because it's some gray in the background and then those white marks from the pen, which fit perfectly with my letter in the background. So now I'm just going to use my very simple collage elements and I'm going to put them all together. I'm going to use some matte medium today to glue it all down, and here's my bird that I'm going to cut out. And once I get everything cut out and laid down, I'm going to glue it down. And that's pretty much as simple as this page is. So if you have a printer, print out on copy paper a picture of yourself, the phrase that you want to use to sum up your letter or your experience this week, and have fun putting together your letter to your past self and inspire yourself. One other thing that I had previously printed out is just this list of words, and they're in all different fonts. And so I have these available to me if I ever want to add them into my projects. And so I added the word safe because that is how it makes me feel, that where I started and how I got here, it all makes me feel safe, and it makes me feel peaceful that I'm on the right path, that I'm going to end up where I need to go. So now I have some tissue paper with some gold polka dots, so I'm going to add that all over my page. There's some little gold dots as part of this page. For one of my final steps, I decided to outline parts of my portrait using a fine line Sharpie, and wow, there's nothing scarier than drawing a face, but it definitely helped to just be able to trace over what was already there. And so you'll watch me make some lines on my face, on the bird, on my shirt, like just a couple of places like that I really wanted to stand out a little bit more. And then off camera, I add a little bit of blue to the page, and I use a gold pen to add even more marks to the bird. And that is it. So again, I hope you inspire yourself this week. And if you're just starting on your art journey, then you should write a letter to your future self and what you want to accomplish or what it feels like starting to make art for the first time. I can't wait to see what you make.